Good afternoon. My name is Isabella Barrett, and today I will be discussing whether politicians used to be more virtuous and civil in previous centuries. So when you think of politics today, what do you think of? Smiling people in suits, always being friendly to their opponent, and always being gracious and loving. No, you do not. You think of two politicians standing at a podium, arguing with one another, and throwing back and forth attacks. So we have to decide whether this decline in politicians being less virtuous and civil was that because of a moral decline or because of a social decline. What was the reason? Well, whether politicians are virtuous and civil is not based on the time period or age. It's based on the heart of the person and their morals and where they stand and what they believe in. This can be proven in a couple different instances. So back in the early American government, we have the candidates Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Now they were rival enemies, Federalists versus Nationalists, all these different things. And the competition was getting very fierce. People were not being quote unquote civil anymore. And so to decide who would prevail, they decided to just end it all with a duel, to fence with one another. And so on the day of the duel, Hamilton and Burr came to the site, and before the duel had even commenced, Burr just decided to kill Hamilton before it had even begun. Would you call this civil? Would you call this virtuous? No, it's not one party reigning over another. That's just a decline of morals. If you think about it in today's perspective, like I mentioned previously, we have two candidates standing at podiums, throwing back and forth ad hominem attacks, throwing fallacies at one another, and not even arguing over the main point. They're arguing over, smearing the other candidate instead of addressing the actual policies and ideas that they're supposed to be conversing about. And so some today might say that, oh, it's just the age of our world. People back then were more organized and civil. And today, the result of our politics today is just a result of how our society has grown in this modern era. However, as stated previously, whether politicians are virtuous or civil is never based on time. It's based on the heart of the person and their morals. And so we have to think about, why did these morals decay? What was the morals that people had in the early founding years versus today? And the point is that in every age, there will always be sinful people, and there will always be those who just have that in their heart where they just want their own humanity to prevail. And so politicians, there are virtuous and civil politicians in every age, but there are also sinful politicians in every age. And so that can be displayed in the example of Hamilton versus Burr, but it can also be in the example of Trump versus Biden. They're not always civil. And so, in conclusion, politicians, their moral compass is what ultimately determines the course of what they do and what they argue for. Thank you. Good afternoon.